Alright. Dizzy. Oh.
Dizzy trying to speak.
I don't think I can hear Diz.
I can't hear him either.
Well.
Crap.
Uh-oh.
I'm not bringing it down just for this. Go to the intro. Go the intro. I'll do the intro. Oh, crap.
What intro? I don't have a fucking intro.
Hi,
Fucking
welcome to the town
lie.
hall. We are the Wolf Station Wagon. We do things. And this is the town hall that we have like every month or so often.
Alright, yeah, welcome back to another town hall. This week this month we'll actually be talking about, let's see, members having to enforce rules. You haven't talked to the only ones who do so. The next contest has been decided on. Anything we've not mentioned, and then finally the projects and announcements. Okay, so about that bit about enforcing the rules, as mentioned, the members are meant to do that, not just the adminship. But I've heard from a source that some people don't actually do that. That it's sort of not really... That's sort of looked down upon.
I actually have something to say about this.
So
in regards
go
to
ahead.
that, the whole thing about... With the current rules, like you've got Rule 9 being the most apparent one that I can see from the time being. Is the fact that there's kind of this... just for lack of a better word, stigma against members, trying to settle people down when they do break the rules, because people may call them out on, backseat modding and everything. So there is this sort of hesitation to say, look, you're breaking the rules here. Could you please stop it?
Yeah, with several like, oh, I don't have to listen to you. Shut up.
Yeah, and then if you try to go any further,
They'll report you, and then
Yeah.
they'll say, "Oh, yeah, you broke that rule."
You broke the rules!
You didn't have a colored name. You broke the rules.
You broke the rules of nature.
You didn't have the right
So-
color name.
So, Rule 9 is actually sort of...
Memeing to a minimum here. We're actually trying to be serious for once.
So, Rule 9 is actually working against us on this. Alright, we'll need to correct that.
Even though backseat
It's-
moderation is something that's looked down upon in general, it's just that it kind
That-
of,
that's
if we
just
want the members to enforce the rules, it's something that most likely needs to be revised in order to allow that.
it's also this shit. What was I going to say? There's also this blurred line between what counts as acceptable and what is actually breaking the rules itself, like in terms of backseat modding and everything. There is no sort of set bar.
Yeah, it's very vague.
We need a better idea of what's backseat moderating and what's actually being helpful. Yep,
I would say it will get problematic when you report, when you use it to threaten people. When you say, "Oh, if you, I will tell that one time that you did that thing, and I'll get you in trouble," or something stupid like that.
yeah.
I mean, by all means, it does say if there is a problem going on, just ask them once to stop politely, and if it continues, then maybe go to the mods about it, or go to them about it.
Yeah. So that explains that. Acting as an admin despite being of a lower position.
Let's see here. Rule number 9. Can you all hear me, by the way?
Yes,
We-
actually.
Yeah,
Yes,
you
you
know,
could. We can.
Finally fixed it. It was a silly issue. Anyway, rule number 9, do not backseat moderate. If you believe somebody is breaking the rules, sure, ask them to stop politely, but please do not take it further. If they refuse, don't make a huge deal out of it, bring it to a mod's attention. Now, originally this rule was conned because of Skype. This is something that is carried over from there because when we had backseat moderation problems, it was when people were able to host a call on Skype. And this gave the people the subsequent ability to boot and kick people. And MIDI modding became an issue when we had people who were kicking people out of the call of their own volition without regard to the rules or heed of other admins' stance on the matter. And we had a bit of problems with that in the raid call as well that kept us from bringing that rule down, such as people trying to say, shut up, you should be muted, if I were a mod, I'd mute you, you know, small things like that. It wasn't ever a very big prevalent issue there, but we kept it around, and it stayed around here, just so we could use it as a precautionary measure.
Yeah. But now that we're on Discord, things are different.
Kind of the bigger picture with this whole issue is the fact that the Wolfus Station Wagon is not a nurtured community like it was before. Now, what I mean by this is the members beforehand, the members back in the day, were able to figure out situations, come to peaceful resolutions, and be able to deal with complicated issues because at the time there were admins there who were willing to teach. The philosophy was teach a man to fish and feed him for life, give a man a fish and feed him once kind of deal. We haven't had this happen, and not a lot of mentors or community leaders, meaning to teach members, have come about. So what we have come to is sadly an age of the Wolfus Station Wagon being unnurtured and having members who do not have any moral or discipline to be able to handle these situations, whereas the admins otherwise would be able to because they come from that era.
It's also a general problem with the fact that as the group gets bigger, it becomes harder and harder to make sure that everybody behaves maturely and that they know how to settle things maturely.
Especially with such a big age range of...
Yes.
Especially because you could have like some small kids for all I know, and you could have adults. It just varies so much that it's quite difficult to actually find that happy way to make everyone happy.
Furthermore, it has also become an issue with the admins, a lot of themselves. Not all the admins are able to teach or are indeed professional enough to do it. In one way to put it, we had one person who was able to bring the community up when it was going down. And this one person has not been around as much these days. This, of course, being Spazteak, when he was able to, you know, when the whole issue with Mr. Hart was happening, was able to nurture the small...
I really
community.
believe it's giving him far too much credit for the work of a lot of people.
A lot of people did help out, and eventually, I'd say he was kind of the ignition to that vehicle.
Not
He was the
really.
drive. Anyway, it's one of those things where you have to really sit back and think, if you're dealing with a community that cannot handle themselves without the abilities of the admins present, then what do you do? Well, probably after the many town halls that we have talked about this, I'd say probably the biggest thing is commitment. Not a lot of people might be committed to bettering themselves like at one point or the other. And what I mean by this is in our creed, we are a group that's supposed to be dedicated to the personal development of each individual person. regardless of our preferences and our ideologies. Now, last town hall, there was a conflict that showed that not many people were willing to come together civilly. And as a result, that town hall ended up being really uncomfortable for a lot of people, and rightfully so. The order and civil nature of the town halls was brought about because we wanted help from the members. And in the state of the community as it is now, the way I see it, the members may not be able to handle the situations as they come because, as mentioned before, there are not only a ginormous diversity of people here that bring about new issues or new complicated situations that are harder to deal with, but we aren't able to teach the same way we were back then because it is so big.
Alright, so with that brought to light, what can we do about Rule 9 itself? Because as Sky said, we could either get rid of it or heavily change it.
Well, I think it still needs to include that ask them politely and don't let it carry on, because if that with that, then some people are obviously going to get mad and start fights over it. Because
But on that note, there is also Rule 4. If you see anything wrong, notify the mod, but don't make a public fuss about it.
Oh, if you
Yeah.
see anything going on
I think there are a lot of rules here which, just reiterate the same point over and over again.
Yeah, some
And
are
that
redundant.
and that is due to the factor that a lot of the rules that we did come up with at the time were initially brought about by a situation that called for a new rule. And yeah, that is a true thing. I think at this point we do point a lot to the rules, but we haven't done a lot of refining to the rules that is at this point considerably necessary. Looking at all the rules that we have now, they could be worded better. They end up coming off as vague, and that's a general complaint with the rules. And I think that's probably the biggest thing, is the rules need a little bit of revision so that they're less vague and more straight.
If I recall correctly, there was this thing that I think was in the last town hall. I was talking about not going straight to the mods about something when something goes wrong. You go to the person who's actually causing trouble first.
Yeah.
And that's in Rule 4. So yeah, there should be a lot of rewording.
Something I want to say about the rules in general, I think they need to be completely retooled for Discord, as you keep on saying that a lot of the reasons for some of the rules is because Skype and Raid call, but that's no longer relevant.
Yes,
and
as mentioned before, we kept them around because of those things in case they would pop up here. But the reality is they haven't always popped up here, and there are many ways we can fix that. Even looking at it now, I can see many ways we could reword that since we're on this specific platform.
And you could update the rules as the system gets updated. So if a feature of the system somehow helps in mitigating some of the things, then you could simply change it.
Of course, some of the core ideas of the rules would definitely be kept at this point.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's really the wording.
Yeah, it needs to be reworked to work with this platform as efficiently as possible. That would help a lot.
It would kind of be like the guidelines we had set for the DeviantArt. Now, for the most part, since we updated our standard, I'm being echoed 404.
Oh, shit. Let me turn it down.
Anyways, what we had worked for the standards and submission guides on the DeviantArt side of things, it worked. People follow them generally, and when people don't, we have a very good thing to go off of. And for the past few town halls, it's been pretty apparent that we ask people to look at the rules before they take action. But not everybody does, for one, because they are generally pretty vague. But more to the point, a lot of I guess you could say miscreants and people who are problem members do not care.
I think the term we're looking for is we just basically need to reform the rules.
So that we have a good idea of what to go off of, and we can kind of nurture a good teaching, a good lesson, a good moral for people to go off of, so that, it can kind of build on itself. At this point, I'd consider it a little bit like good soil. We need good soil so that we can grow good plants, and as they grow, they will get stronger and more healthier.
Yeah, laying a good foundation for this, a new foundation for the size of the group and the current platform would definitely be a good way to help. Assuming people are going to be cooperative, but there's always going to be uncooperative people. It's just how things are.
And at this point, it's just a matter of the community leaders and the members be willing to take some baby steps to retrace and kind of build themselves back up. Because at this point, I'd say a good majority of the community has been slipping. I know it's a big generalization to say that, but keeping in mind the fact that a couple of the problems is a lot of the admins not being present and members not knowing how to handle themselves in situations that go sour.
If I may say, I'm willing to take the steps and such. I admit I have not been following along a lot recently because life has just been very stressful for me, and I'm wanting to get back into the office and such, and I think that would actually be a good time for me to also step up and help out however I can.
I myself have had my own demons with attendance in this group. I have been gone for a good majority of time because I've allowed myself to work on projects that have subsequently taken up a lot of my time. And that definitely will not be helped when college rolls around again for my own self. But that does mean that I will have to sort out my own personal problems so I can get back into the groove of the group, because I know that anybody can help, and every little bit does.
And of course, if grad school is as bad as they say it is, that will probably eat up a lot of my time too. So,
Well,
With a lot of the folks in the older part of the Waffle Station Wagon community, I guess you could say a lot of life has happened. A lot of people are moving up in the grades, and a lot of situations, such as people working and going to college, has been kind of a big issue for attendance. What we can do with this is take the small steps to check in every once in a while and be willing to share and apply what we learned outside. Now, I did learn a lot in the Wolfus Station Wagon back in the day, and I was able to learn and apply myself, but a lot of that has not been around.
Well, I can agree to that. I will admit it's going to be hard for me to get back into things because not for things like college and such, but I'm going to be shifting hours for my job, and I'll be working very early part of the time, and it may be a little harder for me just to come on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got it. Your life obviously has to take priority. I mean, no one can blame you for that.
well, about those baby steps, I kind of agree with everyone. I mean, these baby steps are. Wait a minute, for I think I'm echoing in you for a bit. So, by the way, on the subject of that baby steps, I'm actually very willing. I might be a new member, but yeah, every little step counts. I mean,
Go ahead.
I mean that. Looking back at my my past few incidents, yeah, I'm not just slipping. I've slipped.
Eh,
You've actually gotten better, in my opinion.
I'm sort of
No.
confused. What?
Yeah, so am I.
Same.
Like, are we supposed to be talking about?
I think he's talking in regards to himself, mainly
Yeah,
some of the
we
issues
keep-
that have happened between group members and himself.
We keep having people trying to make the meeting about them and their stuff. Please, guys, we're talking about the group as a whole, not individual.
Yeah.
I think at this point it's probably the biggest step we could take right now is considering reformatting the rules themselves, the rules and the guidelines, because they are kind of the big core fundamental thing we are looking at this town hall meeting. And at this point, it's just a matter of us acknowledging that so we can start taking the steps to get these rules settled. And one of the things the admins will have to start doing is discussing the rules, and then we can present them to the community.
In that
Yeah.
case, can I offer a proposal?
Go ahead.
What is it?
I may be taking a little bit too much inspiration from the founders of the United States, but why don't we hold like a special meeting session or something, or for the lack of a better term, convention, and go over proposed new rules and write them down and such.
You
I
mean
think
like
the best. I think that would be the town hall. In all
yeah, I was gonna
honesty,
say, you mean like a town hall?
Welcome to the town hall, people.
Well, I
Stone.
mean like a special meeting like that where we don't
a
have to
separate
meet
one from the town hall.
Well,
That all
no,
hinges.
more of-
Hmm.
Go ahead.
It can still be a town hall, but I mean, it's not going to be on a monthly basis. It's going to be like, I don't know,
A one-time thing.
outside of it.
That's probably just we need to get like the next town hall. We just need to have it be, hey, one of the big things is we're redoing the rules, so we're going to be fixing the rules.
Yeah, I
We
think
don't
that-
need anything special. We don't need anything new. We just need to set it on the town hall for next week.
That's,
But,
yeah, that's
al-
pretty
but
much
also
already it is town hall.
You say that you say that it's going to take a very long time, but that just kind of just basically saying that over time, with the demographic of the group changing, that the rules are going to have to change slowly and surely to accommodate.
They can be
Right.
modified.
Yeah,
they
that
can be modified.
modified at any time.
yeah, they need
So
to be.
we just need to set a baseline for now, and then build off of the.
And
Yeah.
as of now, I'd say since this right now is the backseat moderation, I'd say that's probably going to that and rule number 4 could be combined or at least shortened and specified. But as a whole, I'd say we as the admins really do need to look at a lot of the rules, and in the next town hall, we can present them. We can showcase them, feedback on them, since this is kind of going to be a progressive thing, but as they are now, they definitely need to be looked at and analyzed.
After so often, we could review the rules if things change in the community or with the platform, for example.
I think that will come about naturally as a result of this anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just try to make them as easy to evolve and change.
Because I mean, if such a change is required, then someone will bring it up.
Yeah.
Yes. Like mentioned before, the rules did come about because situations came up where we had to make a specific rule. Looking at the post in October 28th, 2015, we had Roy talk about not starting fights with other people if you disagree with their opinions, and then the subsequent 14, do not abuse Robonitori, when Robonitori became a part of our community.
Yeah.
Those were rules that were, of course, brought about by Discord. So that kind of shows that the rules prior have not been modified or put into motion because of Discord. So I think we can work on the rules with that, and I think this town hall meeting is kind of a good start to acknowledge that.
Yep.
And then we can set a better foundation for ourselves, because we definitely need it at this point.
Indeed.
Sturm has mentioned something. Of course, moderators have more power than regular members. They have to. They can't moderate otherwise.
I'm not sure if I fully agree with it, but I understand the point he's making.
I understand that
I'd s-
there probably is there is still some divide between ability and authority.
Yes.
Well, yeah, well, obviously you need the ability to kick and ban people, otherwise you aren't able to get rid of them. So,
It's also a matter of looking back at what it was before. What it was before is the admins and the moderators were first members before they were admins and moderators. That's kind of the core idea. But there is a distance to that. When you become a mod or an admin, you do kind of disconnect with that mindset, because you are outside of the membership circle a lot of the time, and can be, based on the current situations. And I have to admit, because of my own absences, I have not been keeping up with what the community has been saying or doing. And so it is a little bit more hard.
I would
And-
definitely say that the deputy admins are doing a better job of staying within the communities. People such as Wave and Alession,
Yes.
they're pretty much haven't changed since they've been given that role.
And that's why we brought them about. And I'd say, yes, I definitely agree that a good majority of the deputy admins have been doing well. But I'd also will say that the admins haven't been doing their best either. Not all of them. Because looking at it now, we have 5 online, and let's see here. Not many of them are here today with us. And that goes to show that back then, when we first started doing the town halls, we pretty much had every admin in here. Every single one. It was...
Yeah.
That's why we're having deputy admins in the first place, is because a lot of the admins are growing up. They're having to go out and get jobs, and the ones that are still here are generally only available every once in a while.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think we need to start cycling in new admins, like actual permanent ones.
Which is definitely something we have to consider, because eventually it'll turn that way. For me myself, I know it'll eventually turn to the point where I'll be out of college and looking for a new place.
Go ahead.
But situations will vary for all of the admins in question, but we have to be willing to set aside the time to be ready for that. We'll know when it gets to that point, of course.
Well, I'll read out Sturm's other comments, or should I?
Let's see
I'll
here.
do it.
Okay, so Sturm last said that if something goes wrong, us admins are to be held accountable. If everyone's equal, that can't happen. Nothing will ever get done. That's what
Mhm.
Sturm said.
Yeah, that's the point. The point is not making them entirely equal, it's minimizing the difference and disconnect.
Mhm.
I disagree with that entirely. I think the reason that the people are admins is because there needs to be that disconnect, so that people know if this person is telling you, okay, yeah, stop, then there shouldn't be an argument of whether you should stop. You're being told by someone who is in the position to lead the group that you need to stop.
Yes,
And
when put
they're
that way.
not going to be able to do that if we minimize the difference between them. And yeah, it's not an age limit is probably one of the dumbest things. I'm sorry, in personal opinion, an age limit would be one of the dumbest things we could have, because we've had members who are like 12, 13 who were far more admin material than some members who were like 20 or 30.
Not to mention that
Again.
people can just lie about their age. I mean, it's not hard if your voice is convincing.
Yeah.
It depends on maturity in the grand scheme of things, not age.
Maturity and capability, because I've seen mature people who absolutely could not be put into a place of power if the entire world depended on them.
Hmm.
Age does not equal maturity. Yeah,
That's the thing I've learned.
definitely.
And pretty much, you can actually see in some cases. It's just, yeah.
I think probably one of the more bigger disconnects is between the DeviantArt and the voice chat with a lot of things. Because on the DeviantArt side of things, I'd like to think things have gone pretty well. Of course, there is the occasional submission drama and stuff like that, but I'd like to think that it's been set up pretty well. But I can't say the same for the Discord.
That's just because of the format in the Discord in general, I believe. It's more of a chat-based system, and as a result, it's more real-time.
It is.
Yeah,
But
some people are in the group just to post their Wolf's work, and they talk, and their limit to communication with others is through the comments and discussions on DeviantArt. Like, some never come here, never talk in voice chat. Some will only talk in text chat. So.
Like, DeviantArt, the minimum is literally just post your stuff and then not do anything about it. Whereas in the Discord, there is a bit more personal level.
Yeah.
Because people
It's a
actually
lot more and it's a lot less central focused on taking comments and submissions and using that as a grounds for communication. But thinking about it on a bigger scale, when we had videos posted in the Walfus Station Wagon, that was kind of our grand central congregation. A lot of people who had come here had come from the YouTube side of things a lot more of the time than the DeviantArt side of things. Nowadays, since the YouTube activity has dwindled to a bare minimum, we are getting an audience that is mainly coming from the DeviantArt side of things rather than a good mixture. So I'd say when it comes to nurtured, I'd say the videos were a good nurture for people because a lot of people ended up coming here inspired by Walfus and the videos that came. And we still do get people who come here who are inspired. In fact, one of the deputy admins, Siege, came here inspired from the YouTube side of things. And that's an example of a side of the community that we no longer have and might honestly be a big contributor to our lack of nurturing.
I would personally argue that it doesn't really matter where the person comes from, it just depends on the person.
I guess.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
I'd agree with to a certain extent in the fact that where about you come from can determine what you will do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Like mentioned before, with the inspired factor.
I mean, it doesn't 100% determine, but it can, have significant influence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
With the
some
Deviant,
people are more here just to make friends rather than to actually post anything.
Yeah, and that's kind of the big thing. The video side of the Walfus Station Wagon was a very big, important one because it showed that there were content creators who were willing to make videos with it. And Not everybody's, of course, going to make videos about this, but it shows that missing one part of the community does take away quite a bit.
Yeah, but you lose an audience.
Hmm.
You lose the audience of animators.
Yes. And the animators themselves will slowly stop.
Are video
Well-
collabs going on?
Yeah, because if you post a lot of animations, for example, the people who like to animate will maybe say, "Oh, these guys are pretty good at animating. Maybe I can go be friends with them and collaborate with them and stuff like that."
Yeah, and that's actually what Siege came here for.
Yeah,
And
and those
now-
people are obviously going to be more cooperative in most cases because they want to come and collaborate and work with you.
And they all share a common goal as well.
Yeah, and therefore they will more likely be friendly, cooperative, and just generally work better within the community.
And in other cases, they're just people that are there for said community.
Mhm. As the group gets bigger with that, it's kind of a wonder if the video making portion of Office will completely stop or kick back up at some point or another, and that will generally kind of garner its own version of an audience. Right now, I'd say we're the community that's Grand Central focus is on the DeviantArt side of things, since that's pretty much all that's happening.
Well, if there is this sort of determining whether it's going to stop or pick up, it's all a case of momentum. If you don't want it to stop, then make your own stuff and keep that momentum. But that's really all.
Hmm.
The only
You
person
really
that
can.
is you.
Of course.
Well,
If you don't want the video side of it to die, then you have to contribute to it.
Of course.
You have to maintain that momentum.
This, of course, is just me saying that the effects of losing that side of the community are still going to be prevalent. So not everybody is going to pick back up on the video making side of things just by saying this. But
Well,
I
yeah.
think one of the big reasons Siege was trying to get a lot of help for his animated and the Wolfus Variety show was to kind of help inspire that piece of the community. But of course, not everybody contributed, and complications came along the way.
I think one of the problems is that not a lot of people actually know how to do it. If people were made tutorials and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure more people would at least give it a go, and they might find they like it.
And there's some things, self-sustainability. There are, at the moment, I hate to say it, but there are too few people. There are too few people in this sort of small subgroup to self-sustain it.
Yes. Siege did try, but it did not happen this way because I'd say it was mainly him going to the DeviantArt side, who was at the time unmotivated to make videos and asking to make videos. We do not have a lot of people in that side, and despite the fact that in the Wolfus Variety show, Siege and a few others were willing to animate sketches, not a lot of people seemed motivated enough to give ideas, and eventually it just kind of fell.
Oh, wait. On that note, how are the other Waffles groups doing with say the video community? It's still
I haven't seen anything aside from the
I
few
don't know
uploads.
that any other group does videos like we.
Originally, the Wolfus Station Wagon was devised because it was basically the group of YouTubers that came together and congregated so that they could talk about the videos they made and stuff like that. That's kind of why we exist in the first place, whereas the clubs and the other such were devised completely on the DeviantArt side of things. It's mainly due to the fact that we don't have the same variety as we once had before. And it might be something that we could consider bringing back in some form or another, at least looking into as a new thing, because right now it's not really trending, but it could. We have definitely many tools and freeware assets that could bring it back and consider. Let's see here. HTF brings up the point that decent video editing software still costs money. But for a lot of things, there are a number of freeware video editing things like Lightworks, and Spaztig brought up one that was also called Wax, and it's mainly the idea of encouraging it the same way that we encourage the use of GIMP and Paint.net VideoPad as well. There is a lot of suggestions that have kind of been silent about the whole thing. So it's mainly the idea if you folks would want that to be kind of suggested and brought about again, the video making side of it, because anybody can start somewhere with that, and that could be a very good part of the Waffle Station Wagon having a little bit of variety again, because I remember when videos were made, a lot of people would link the YouTube videos and even quote the videos a lot of the time just for fun.
Like, remember when people still remember the Kaneko science thing?
Oh yeah.
Yes. You certainly do.
Without the new videos bringing about new sorts of trends and funny things to bring up, they kind of grow stagnant.
We need new memes, pretty much.
We do not need more memes.
Well, not memes. I'm not talking about memes. I'm talking about jokes that were at one point or another funny. Have gotten more stale because we haven't had more videos.
With less videos come less jokes, especially animated jokes.
I think it's also the case that, like HTF brings up, it's not only much more, it's kind of more expensive, it's a lot more resource intensive as well. Like there's a lot more work going into a single video than there is going into a single comic in most circumstances.
In the case of video making, though, a lot of the times it is harder work, but most of the time it comes off as more rewarding and more fulfilling than just a comic.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't make comics anymore. I just don't feel satisfied when I do it anymore.
Yeah,
I could make one every day, but I don't feel anything when I do it.
That's the problem with it. We definitely need a little bit more variety in the community, I think. Video making would be a good start with that because it encourages hard work in the interest of video making, animating, and putting forth that work. I remember when a novice video maker in our community was actually making their first video, they put tons and tons of work into it. It was painstaking for them, but when they finished, they were very excited for it. They showed it to the community, and it was more well received than when we would, like, say, post a comic.
Yeah, Kadata said it sounds like a good dose of determination is needed to go forth with video making / animation.
It is definitely something that requires a lot more effort, but if you made something like 100 comics or one video that would be remembered for years to come, yeah, I'd say it'd be something very, very good to pick up individually as kind of a fun little pet project to work on. Because comics can take as much as a day to finish, whereas a video could take something like weeks or something. Now I've wanted to get into animation for a while, but in the interest of college and time, of course, it's not something I picked up as much as I keenly should have, which honestly is my own fault. But let's see here, Sky says.
Should I it.
Unoriginality. Wasn't using audio for random things the origin for Waffles on YouTube?
It was, pretty much.
There's a whole unoriginality thing. Unoriginality is a thing which is which was present in all media, regardless.
It was a mixture, though, with the sketches. There were a couple of original sketches, and there were a couple of sketches that had clips in it of funny media.
Like, if it example is if, let's say, a random officer decided to make a Waffle sketches video, and then that guy used a clip from one of Vanoss. Then
You're beating around the bush.
Don't worry, you can give it some thought before you say it. That's what we're here for, of course. We're all sitting here thinking about what we can say next.
Well, I've actually got a good point about procrastination. That's a horrible problem that I suffer from.
Mm.
I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, because instead of doing comics, I decided that something that I could do that makes me feel more satisfied is trying to draw things. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to draw, and then I'm like, oh, no, I'll do it later, and then I'll do it later.
Procrastination breeds procrastination. I think there's actually a good video Spaz linked on this one.
And talking about motivation, that's kind of the big keystone here that I was talking about. Effort and inspiration.
Kirata posted that laziness and procrastination is very crippling indeed.
But again, those things can help be mitigated by things like motivation and inspiration, as talked about before. Because there is little of that here, procrastination and laziness are pretty much inevitable with that. I'm saying that it would probably be a very good idea if we started encouraging that, or looking for ways on how we could do something, because it didn't take us forever to figure out that Paint.net and GIMP were even a thing that we could use. It was brought about by somebody else who was using those at the time.
That kind of opens the Waffles customs stuff, you know?
Yeah, custom stuff and were entirely brought about by things like Paint.net, GIMP, and Inkscape, and all these other programs. And there's a whole branch that does dedicate themselves to working on customs for others to use. And of course, that in turn perpetuates more activity and motivation to do comics on the DeviantArt side of things.
I'd just like to say a little thing about customs. I don't really know, but it seems to be that a lot of people make customs that will never be used.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like the OC problem.
Too. Yeah.
It's like all these people make all these like very specific gun customs, and then you're like, well, I just need like a general gun. Like, I don't need super specific guns.
But look at something like Shin Kong's Walfus Arms custom pack. Both the straight and bent one. That is universally used. I'm not even kidding. I see it everywhere. That is kind of the ideal pack that a lot of people use, because it definitely has its uses for a lot of people.
Yes, that's an example of a very good pack. Like something that is generally Toho related would also be a good pack, because it's going to get a lot of use. Whereas if you just make like every single gun, like how many guns do you need?
I guess I can make an exception in that case if they use it for some sort of series, but most of the time they do not.
If they're making their own customs for use in their own series, then
Additionally, they could be making customers as proof of concept.
Or they
Yeah.
could just be making them because they're bored, and at which point I just say, "Well, go ahead then."
The
I mean-
the other pack that I was going to mention was actually kind of recent. It was made by Delta, and he made basically all of the preloaded assets and create that with have a back sprite. That is also really useful because that really diversifies how you can implement motion. You can have people looking behind them and stuff, which was generally kind of a limit in Wolfus. And of course, that would definitely help in a video making part too. And let's see here. There was another person who made a custom leg pack. Now, this was kind of in its base, and so a lot of people would have to make a custom of their own volition to use it. But imagine if somebody made different leg motions for Wolfus. That would open up a whole new world.
Yes, and
Yep.
something I was going to say again is that about getting people to do stuff. I think that a lot of people would like to do things, but they just don't know where to start. Like with animation, for example, I know a lot of people would like to give it a go, but the problem is they have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
So if then people would make tutorials, and if they're not capable, then perhaps they could try and teach someone personally, and then perhaps that person.
There are tutorials. It's just a lot, again, with the whole procrastination thing, you don't really, quote unquote, find the time to get around to doing it.
So how's about this? How about for at least everybody here who knows of at least a decent or usable freeware software, start suggesting it to other people. I'd say it'd be a good place to do it, since there are a lot of other people here. If they have any sort of idea of editing software in general, it would be kind of a good idea. Now, I already know quite a few of freeware video making software, and even some that comes bundled. A lot of people already might know this already, but Windows Movie Maker can do you just fine as well.
Mm-hmm. If I may suggest a few free drawing programs that I've been using, Smooth Draw 4, Fire
also
Alpaca, and Krita. Yeah, they're all very good free programs for drawing, and they can also be used for editing as well. They're free, very good, useful.
There are sort of like drawing stuff like that up just all over the place, whereas video editing is a lot more niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, video editing is something. For videos, at least, I do actually upload a few videos occasionally, but what I use is typically called Kdenlive, but it's Mac Linux only, at least to my knowledge. So if you're on a Windows, it may be difficult, but for Mac and Linux, it's actually a good video editing software. So I would recommend that if you mean to have those.
You'd have to know Linux to get it to work.
Yeah.
Also,
Well, if you use any of them, then there you go.
Am I coming in okay, or am I glitchy?
I hear you.
Currently, Windows Movie Maker does not exist on the latest Windows.
Yes. HDF, do you know if previous Windows Movie Maker things, like maybe even the Vista one, are available for download like anywhere? And do they work on modern hardware?
I don't think they will, because the old Windows XP one will not run, or the Windows Vista will probably not run on Windows 10. I have not tested this though, but the thing is, Microsoft changed a lot on the software side that it won't work.
There is one video recording software. I'm not sure if it's any good, but it is free, and I've used it once. It's called Virtual Dub.
Virtual Dub.
Yeah,
Virtual Dub is a little. It's different.
At least with
Also-
Lightworks, what I linked down here, they do have their own tutorials on it, and getting a feel for it, I at least know how to use it, and I could probably make something with it, even if it's small. And this is
That's-
kind of something that at one point or another the community had done for things like Paint.net and GIMP and other such things that we could get, because the community at one point or another did not have an idea of what to use. Now we have ideas for things like Paint.net, GIMP, Andy, Snap, and all sorts of other things.
Actually, we've derailed. We're no
We
longer
have
talking about our
quite-
first
Quite
topic.
derailed. I mean, it's a good segue into the next topic, which is the next contest.
Mhm.
But we kind of derailed going from like the actual points of this time to videos to I don't even know.
Well, at this point, it's not a bad derail, and plus we already established with the first topic that we do need to look at the rules again and consider changing bits and pieces to make them less vague and more specific, and then we'd share that with the community. I'd like to think that we all decided that was a good idea. I think for this one, I think it's at least a good thing to bring up, because then we can kind of discuss and suggest things to bring back a piece of the community that was missing. So
I think that's something that should be tabled for. In the meantime, between this town hall and the next town hall, the admins work on X, like the rewrites of the rules, and then when it comes back to the next town hall, they throw them out there and say, these are what we came up with rules. What do you guys think? What are your opinions on them? Do they need any glaring changes? Because in the end, it's the admins who are making the rules, because it's the admins who need to enforce the rule.
Yep.
And of course the members to keep them in mind so that they can be nurtured and brought about between them.
But in the end, it's on the admins, not on the members.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just give our feedback as to what we think about the rules you suggested. If you don't want to listen to us and because that would hinder you, then that's up to you.
And because sometimes members only voice complaints because they don't want to have part of their experience limited because of one reason or another. I can recall a couple members who were against any sort of rules being added because then they wouldn't be able to do what they want to have fun.
We're looking for something a little bit more constructive than just general complaints about something.
Yeah,
criticisms that are actually thoughtful and have the community in mind. Complaints don't often have that.
Yeah, this group has gotten far, far too large to allow for just everybody to do whatever.
Yeah, you can't, and also the whatever rules you possibly come up with won't please everyone.
Well, that's almost, I'd say, a good thing, because that would dissuade the kind of people who do not want these rules in place or do not like them and do not want to uphold them to just kind of leave. Because if they don't want to uphold the rules or respect the community's hard work they put into the rules, then go, please. Just
or they'll just get banned.
Don't be rude about it.
Just leave.